Well, how many of you were ready to memorize the entire Internal Revenue Code? You're excited for that, aren't you? Obviously joking. We are going to go through the important points of the Internal Revenue Code you need to know, not absolutely everything. We're also going to talk about it, kind of describe what it is and what you need to know. We're going to talk about the tax preparation regulations as well, right? We've got a lot of perspectives. We've got the perspective of the tax preparer or the taxpayer. The taxpayer being an individual who could hire a tax preparer, CPA, soon to be you, or just a practitioner, an enrolled agent. We'll talk about who those are. And the tax preparer can have penalties. The taxpayer can have penalties. Hopefully, in the world, we all avoid penalties, but that's just life sometimes, right? We're going to do our best to avoid that. Let's see what we've got as learning objectives for this lesson. First off, we're going to want to understand and be able to explain the role and authority of the state boards of accountancy. We're going to talk about the AICPA. We're going to talk about those state boards of accountancy, which guess what? There's 50 of them, 50 big old wonderful states out there. And the licensure, the CPA license, who's responsible for making sure that you get your CPEs done, those continuing professional education credits. There's a lot of different authorities out there. I mean, gosh, if I just off the top of my head, FASB, GAAP, IRS, AICPA, PCAOB, there's just so many organizations and authoritative bodies. We're going to understand the role and how they all play and who you need to listen to. Shocker, you got to listen to all of them in some capacity. We're also going to want to recall who is a tax return preparer. As I mentioned, there's individuals such as enrolled agents and CPAs, and we're going to see that really the only thing you need to do to be a tax return preparer is to have a PTIN. That's a tax identification number for a tax preparer. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. We're also going to want to recall situations that would result in federal tax return preparer penalties. I mentioned we just got a lot of penalties, and hopefully in the future or in now or at any point you never have to face these, but we'll talk about what those are and memorize those. We're also going to want to recall situations that would result in taxpayer penalties. So tax preparer, taxpayer, both have possible penalties. We also want to calculate the penalties and make sure you're able to do the math and answer questions about those. We want to also be able to apply potential federal tax return preparer penalties to given scenarios. So not only can we just simply calculate what would the penalty be, but okay, in this scenario, would there be a penalty? And then build upon it further. What would the penalty be? Be ready for Sims multiple choice, lengthy questions, all the same. We also want to recall the regulations governing the practice before the IRS. Who can practice before the IRS, meaning like who can communicate with them, who can stand up to them, in the legal sense of defend a client against the IRS. We're going to talk about lawyers. We're going to talk about accountants, tax law. I don't know if that's anyone's path in life, but I've met a lot of tax lawyer, accountants, dual licensure. You pass the bar, you pass the CPA exam. I mean, God bless them all. That is quite a bit to get through. We're also going to want to apply the regulations governing practice before the IRS in specific scenarios. Again, who are you? Are you an actuary? Are you a lawyer? Are you an accountant? What does it mean to practice before the IRS? And also, lastly, we're going to want to learn essential topics that are going to carry weight throughout the entire course. This is our first one, diving into our first lesson. We're going to have a lot of different lessons. We're going to make sure we're understanding the various tax forms, because you're going to hear me talk about that a lot. At the end of the day, what are we doing? We're preparing taxes. And the forms themselves, think of them like big formulas that you need to populate and understand how they work, how they calculate. And it's going to help you a lot throughout the exam. If you can understand, okay, I see this item here. Well, I know that goes on Schedule A for itemized deductions. Makes it more real because you know where it actually goes on the tax forms. And lastly, we've got a lot of tax law changes. So the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. This is tax law, and even when we get to business law, it's history. It's built upon by historical changes, adjustments. That's why this exam is also difficult, because we've got constantly changing thresholds and phase out amounts. It's constantly changing. And that's what we're here to help prepare you for and make sure you're able to answer. I know it's a pretty hefty summary, but this lesson has a lot of weight to it because we're getting you started. We're getting you off the ground. The rocket ship is taking off. It's my pleasure to be able to walk you through it and get you ready, started on this wonderful journey. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started. So why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.